Before there was a nation, there was a dream. A dream of people who wanted to live free. This is the story of how 13 colonies fought an empire and became the most powerful country on Earth. This is the rise of America. In the early 1600s, European settlers arrived on the eastern coast of North America. They came for land, faith, and opportunity. Life was hard. Many died from hunger, disease, and harsh winters. But those who survived built towns and farms that grew into strong colonies. Even though they lived far from Britain, they remained under British rule. They paid taxes and followed laws made by a king across the ocean. As years passed, they wanted control over their own lives and decisions. By the 1700s, tension between Britain and its colonies increased. Britain raised taxes on goods like tea and paper without giving the colonists any political voice. Protests spread across the colonies. In 1770, British soldiers fired on protesters in the Boston Massacre. 3 years later, colonists staged the Boston Tea Party, dumping British tea into the harbor in defiance. These acts of resistance pushed both sides toward open conflict. In 1775, British troops marched to Lexington and Concord. Local militia met them with gunfire. The American Revolution had begun. Ordinary farmers and craftsmen fought trained. British soldiers in a struggle for freedom. In 1776, colonial leaders met in Philadelphia. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, declaring that all men are created equal, and that governments exist only with the consent of the governed. Under General George Washington's leadership, the Continental Army fought against superior British forces for 8 long years. The war was brutal. At Valley Forge, soldiers suffered freezing winters with little food or supplies. Yet their determination never broke. With the help of French allies, the Americans won the decisive victory at Yorktown in 1781. 2 years later, Britain officially recognized American independence. The United States of America was born. Freedom, however, brought new problems. The new nation had no strong central government. Each state issued its own money and made its own trade laws. The economy struggled, and unity seemed uncertain. In 1787, delegates gathered again in Philadelphia to fix the system. They created the United States Constitution, establishing 3 branches of government and a system of checks and balances. The Constitution became the foundation of American democracy and a model for other nations. George Washington was elected the first president in 1789. During the early 1800s, America began to grow rapidly. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson purchased the Louisiana Territory from France, doubling the nation's size. Explorers Lewis and Clark were sent to map the new lands. Reaching the Pacific Ocean, settlers pushed westward, driven by the idea of manifest destiny, the belief that expansion across the continent was their destiny. This growth, however, came at a cost. Native American tribes were forced from their lands, and slavery expanded into new territories. The conflict between free and slave states eventually led to civil war. In 1861, 11 southern states seceded from the Union and formed the Confederate States of America. The Civil War became the bloodiest conflict in American history. After 4 years of fighting and more than 600,000 deaths, the Union emerged victorious. Slavery was abolished with the 13th Amendment in 1865, and the United States remained united. The war had tested the nation's ideals and reshaped its future. After the war, America entered the industrial age. Factories, railroads, and new inventions transformed the economy. Cities grew rapidly as people moved from farms to urban centers for work. Millions of immigrants arrived from Europe and Asia, bringing new skills, cultures, and hope. Steel, oil, and electricity powered a new era of progress. Despite economic growth, many workers faced long hours and low wages, leading to labor movements and social reform. America was becoming an industrial and global power. In 1914, World War I broke out in Europe. At first, the United States stayed neutral, but in 1917 it entered the war on the side of the Allies. American troops helped turn the tide of battle and ended the war in 1918. The US emerged as a world power, but the following decade brought the Great Depression. Millions lost jobs and homes. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs helped stabilize the economy and restore hope. In 1939, World War II began. When Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in 1941, America joined the conflict once again. Its soldiers fought across Europe, Africa, and the Pacific. By 1945, the Allies had defeated Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. America had proven its industrial strength and military power. After the war, It became a global leader and helped rebuild Europe through the Marshall Plan. The post-war years marked the start of the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. Both nations competed for global influence and developed nuclear weapons. It was a time of fear, innovation, and space exploration. In 1969, the United States achieved one of humanity's greatest milestones when Apollo 11 landed the first men on the moon. At home, the civil rights movement challenged racial inequality. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks fought for justice and equality for African Americans. Their courage reshaped the nation's moral conscience and brought lasting social change. Throughout the late 20th century, America continued to grow in power, technology, and culture. It faced wars, political conflicts, and social challenges, but its democratic ideals endured. By the end of the century, the United States stood as the world's largest economy and most influential power. Today, America remains a nation of contrasts, diverse yet divided, powerful yet constantly evolving. Its story is not perfect, but it continues to inspire millions who seek freedom and opportunity. The rise of America is the story of determination, struggle, and vision. From rebellion to superpower, it proves that ideas can shape nations and that hope can outlast history.